Holy smokes, we are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to this channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this rebel outpost. If you want to support the true home for college football sickos with a donation to help us keep the lights on, hit that $sign where you make your comment and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio, even those evil Badgers, those evil Hawkeyes. Everybody welcome on in. We sit on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments in the chat room and with your phone calls. We have got ourselves a big show tonight. A big show. A huge show. We were going to start today with our spotlight team. Remember last off season? We're going to do it this off season. You know, we've gone through the predictions, our way too early predictions of all the conferences. We've gone through all first team offense, defense, and special teams of all the autonomy Power 4 conferences. But now, every single live show, we are going to spotlight a team or two. And I've already got a list of them. I'm all ready to go, but we had to shelve it today. So tomorrow we're going to start with the Duke Blue Devils. The next day, the Michigan State Spartans. The next day, the South Carolina Gamecocks. And we're going to cover everything in college football. But today is DEF-CON 2. The damage has been done. How do I know this? Because people are hot. People are upset in the Big Ten. I get it. The Big Ten has pushed their power plays. The Big Ten stabbed their sister conference in the front and the back. I get it. They're not an innocent victim in any of this. But it is my job to give you the peek around the corner. And people are hot. All these alliances, they fall apart. Between conferences, these alliances fall apart. This one between the Big Ten and the SEC has already fallen apart. Now, they're probably not going to show you that in front of the camera because first of all, Tony Petitti won't say anything. That's a problem. That is getting people are hot about that. They are. I told you when Indiana got absolutely ambushed by almost everybody in college football media because they got beat up by the Fighting Irish in the playoff games, Tony Petitti kept silent and Big Ten people were pissed. Big Ten goes into this advisory group with the SEC. It's going to be a very small group. They're going to be able to make decisions. They don't have the Big 12 in the room. They don't have ACC in the room. Greg Sankey says, less people. We can get through this and make decisions. And the Big Ten got played. The Big Ten got played. And they know they got played. And by the way, I'm not leaving the Big 12 and the ACC out of this. You're getting played right now. You're getting played right now. You're getting played by Notre Dame and SEC right now. And I don't think your commissioners, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on up there, but the Big Ten knows they got played. And if Tony Petitti doesn't shut this ridiculous notion down, I've covered this in a live show, a couple live shows a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I'm telling you. If the SEC gets a 16-team playoffs, 5 plus 11, and they also get to tweak the metrics like they're trying to do more in their favor, and Tony Petitti doesn't put a... No, he will not survive. He should just walk out the door, go back to whatever he's been doing. Silent Tony. You can be silent somewhere else. I cannot... That cannot be the final result of all this. It ain't going to happen. It can happen. How do I know this? Because the reason why I was brought into that whole USC story is because the power, the money, a lot of people were starting to find out about USC. I got the call. There was a plan in action. People wanted Kevin Warren to know that they know. There's a whole bunch of other stuff I can't even talk about. I'll never be able to talk about. People get anxious. People get anxious in the Big Ten and everywhere else. When other people were finally clued in on what was about to happen with the Big Ten and the USC, it wasn't out in public, tensions started to die down just a little bit. Remember, this was just recently after the COVID debacle leadership of Kevin Warren, where he wasn't communicating at all with it. Not going to go down that rabbit hole, but everybody, almost everybody, had enough of Kevin Warren when that USC situation started to happen. The Big Ten people are upset now as they were back then. For those who think this is a show, I mean, this is a show. This is the College Football Peek Around the Corner YouTube channel, show, live. But for those who think that that everything's been decided, that this is all for our cameras, and that everything has been nothing has been decided. We thought it was decided. That was true. And the Big Ten got played. Right now, nothing is decided. No. There are 3 buckets of power here. One bucket is the playoff manager. One bucket is the playoffs. And that is the SEC and the Big Ten have the power. Another power is the governance, where all the 4 autonomy conferences might have 65% of the power or 68% of the power, and that's going to be decided later. And then there is another bucket of power, and that is the Committee of Implementation of the House and NCAA rules, where everybody's got a shared power in that. There are 3 separate lanes. This lane, this playoff lane, has been an absolute debacle from the Big Ten's perspective. The Big Ten got absolutely played. Now, I don't expect other people to say this. I don't expect other people to say this. Yeah, well, that's Greg, why are you advocating for airing all the dirty laundry in public? I don't know what you mean by that. Christopher Hooter. Thanks for the question. I don't know what you mean by that. Am I supposed to hide this? I don't quite understand the question. College football's Peek Around the Corner is supposed to hide the DEFCON 2. I get it. I mean, a lot of people are still upset with me that I reported the USC thing. Are still upset with me that I said, no, Oregon and Washington is going to become the part of the Big Ten Conference if A, B, and C happen. 1A was Kevin Warren leaving office. A lot of people are still upset with me about talking about the hot bubble of action. I did not give details, but on May 8th, I said the Pac-12 got a shot in the solar plexus when that meeting happened on May 7th in Chicago, Colorado, in Brett Yormark. A lot of people get upset with me when I air dirty laundry. But this Big Ten's not obligated to make a statement. True, they're not obligated to make a statement. But as the fat guy from Minnesota, as the host of college football's Peek Around the Corner, I am obligated. I definitely, and most definitely, I am absolutely 100% obligated. I'm not a puppet for the Big Ten. I'm not a puppet. Look, I'm ripping. Today, I'm going to be ripping the Big Ten. I'm also going to be ripping the SEC. I'm also going to be ripping the Big 12 and the ACC. Wake up. I'm going to be ripping on everybody. The SEC is about to drink everybody's milkshake. I am obligated to say it. There's another story that we are covering. Pete Thamel. Last night, ESPN, Texas State is the heavy chalk to become a new Pac-12 member. I was obligated a couple months ago to give you guys the peek around the corner. One Pac-12 expansion candidate stands above all others. We said Texas State Bobcats. Now, we were not the only ones saying it, but we've only really done one live show on this massive story. Why? Because the story never changed. We said it at the time. We've been saying it. There's nothing to report. It's Texas State, and that was the report of last night. We're going to go through that article. Again, I was obligated. Host of college football's Peek Around the Corner to give you guys the peek. And you know what? It's not always pretty. A lot of times it's ugly. I am not for everybody. I can tell you that. We are the most unpopular college football YouTube channel in the country. I'm going to give you guys information that we know here at Peek Around the Corner. I'm also going to give you guys my opinions. I'm going to give you guys my speculation. I'm going to tell you guys that your quarterback sucks if I think he's no good. Golden Gopher fans, I got a couple of them hot on my heels because, boy, I do not feel good about that interior defensive line. The depth, we got nothing. If we got one injury on the defensive line, we're in trouble. So it is my obligation. Whatever is going on in college football, it's my obligation to air the dirty laundry. Absolutely. So, where are we? Oh. So those are the two major stories that we're going to be covering. DEFCON 2, the relationship between the Big Ten and the SEC. The Big Ten got played. And it cost them. And hopefully a miracle happens and the Big 12 and the AC, especially the Big 12. Big 12, Brett Yormark, wake up. Wake up. You gotta wake up. There is one good part in this. For me personally. Yes, I'm going to have to eat the cheeseburger live. And that's going to be, I don't know, there may not ever be another live show after that. I may not be able to survive eating a cheeseburger. Very good chance. This is the very last live show we ever, when we do it, when it becomes official, that it's not going to be 4-4 for the SEC and the Big Ten. But there is some what do you call that? A silver lining over these dark clouds that are hanging over Loserville City and I'm the mayor. And that is, we just might keep the playoffs the way they are for 2026, because the Big Ten cannot say yes to what the SEC is trying to do. The Big Ten cannot allow themselves to say yes to any of this. And why all this, we're going to go through it. We are going to go through it. It is the first story that we're going to do today. Then we're going to do the Texas State story. But why all this work is being done on these metrics that favors the SEC. Tony Petitti should have already squashed this. And that's got people upset in the big. When people are, I'm telling you guys, people are pissed. And when Ross Derlinger reported what he reported today, people are wondering what the bleep is going on in Rosemont, Illinois. You've already should have told Sankey, this ain't happening. Shut it down. Shut it down, because they shut you down. They played you, Petitti. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable what is going on. It's DEFCON 2. And again, I get it. A lot of people don't agree. That's good. Give me your comments and give me your phone calls. Tell me there's peace in the land. Tell me there's absolute peace in the land of tell me, Greg, you don't understand. Don't you understand the new governance? It's gonna take care of everything. Greg, don't you understand that this is all just to tweak you and everybody else? And by the way, for those we will get to Pete Thamel's article. We will get to his article, but we're going to do that second. It's a major story. Texas State, major story. But we gotta hit this other thing first. But in that Pete Thamel article, there's he uses the phrase cloak and dagger in conference realignment. That's my tagline. ESPN is stealing PATC's tagline, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. That's fine. I'll let you borrow it. ESPN, you can have it for a couple days. Pete Thamel also said in that article that there is no sense, I'm paraphrasing, we're going to read the correct words, but Pete Thamel says there's no imminent realignment in the autonomy for Power 4 conferences. Now, I've been yelling that out for months. In fact, the last two live shows, I've looked in the camera and I said, I would be the one who would be most shocked if anything is on the horizon when it comes to realignment in the Power 4. It is the exact thing that we've been told over and over and over again. Nothing is imminent. Nothing in the Power 4. But there's nuance here for those, and the PATC family understands nuance. Boy, there is a lot of action going on. There is action. Any movement is not imminent, but there is action. And it is quite active, quite fluid. And this sucker could go any old way. And it is gonna, I know I've been saying this for about 6 weeks. It is going to come out. It is going to come out. A couple doors have been opened to us. We've given what we can. A lot of doors remain closed to us, but there is a lot of action going on. There's a lot of Plan B, Plan C, Plan D, Plan E, F, G, H, I, J, K, elemental P going on. There is. I'm telling you, there is. I don't want to call it a hot bubble of action, because that would, if I use that term, it would lead people to believe that things are imminent, like in the next 3 months. I don't believe that to be the case. So I can't use the word hot bubble of action. But there are people driving down the highway in their, I better not even say the cars make, they're driving down the highway and their destination is going to a state fair called Hot Bubble of Action. There is stuff going on. People are making the effort. People are making the effort on all different sides. It's happening right now, but nothing is imminent. So I agree with Pete Thamel on that. He used the cloak and dagger. He says nothing was imminent. And he also talked about a few other things that we've been talking about here at Peak Around the Corner. So let's get to your super chats. Let's get to your comments. Let's get to the roll call. We got big stories. We got to talk about California athletic director. There's going to be a new one. Rivera is in charge right now. There's so many things going on. Let me do the super chats. We got a lot to get to. And God, there's so much to get to. Let me get to the incredible kind super chats. Ryan Thomas, one alliance will never break down: football and tailgating. Absolutely correct. Ryan Thomas, thank you so very much. And of course, you don't see people putting any cheese on the bratwurst. Although people do put cheese on their hamburgers in tailgating, and I just walk right on by. I don't even stop. Ryan Thomas, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it so much. Bill G, 5 gifted memberships. Holy smokes. 5 gifted memberships. Let me see who got those gifted memberships. I'm sorry, I'm way behind. I have missed it. For those who received the 5 gifted memberships, from Bill G, who's been doing this for days and weeks, for months, incredible generosity. You are all knighted, cloak and dagger. You got yourself an early peak cloak and dagger membership. That's the name of our membership. That's the name. We've had this name. We started the cloak and dagger. ESPN stole it from us. In the article of late last night. But that's okay. Thank you, Bill G. I appreciate your generosity so very much. Thank you. Very kind, sir. Unbelievable. Thank you for helping us out. And the Hoosier. We got a lot of great Hoosiers in our PATC family. Ricky Tungate. Big Ten should have known better. Mr. Hoosier, he's not going to deny that the Big Ten got played. They've lost the battle of the PR. Tony Petitti, if you really wanted the 4-4-2-2-1-3, you had to come out in public and defend the position, and you failed. You absolutely failed. You should have defended Indiana. You did not. You should have done it in public. You failed. I hope to God you are talking to Brett Yormark. I hope you are showing the data to Brett Yormark. we're going to get to that right now. Ricky Tungate, thank you so much for the super chat. Unbelievable generosity. Thank you so very much. I very much appreciate it. We got a lot to get to. Holy smokes, Ricky Tungate. Woo! And let me just throw this out there. This whole thing, this whole Southeastern Conference, thinking about staying at 8 conference games. The coaches want to go to 8 conference games. They might have convinced the athletic director. Greg Sankey now is in favor. 5+11. 8 conference games. If that's the case, and the Big Ten says no, and they have to, if they don't, college football peek around the corner is going nuclear. But that's that's not even there will be people will be going nuclear all over Big Ten country. So if the SEC insists to go down this road and the Big Ten shuts it down like they should, and we go back to the 12-team playoffs, which is my favorite, 5+7 is better than 5+11 with the SEC staying at 8 conference games. That cannot be allowed to happen by the Big Ten. If we go back to the 12-team for 2026, that in itself is an indication, more of an indication why people believe, the chatter behind the curtain, that there is no imminent realignment in Power 4. Because the SEC is not going to expand with a 12-team college football playoff. The Big Ten ain't going to expand with a 12-team college. The Big Ten ain't going to expand if the SEC remains at 8 games. There is not going to be the SEC doing the big scoop on expansion when the college football playoffs are not expanding. The SEC is not going to 9 conference games. The SEC is not trying to get more money for a 9th conference game. There's not going to be play-ins that could have made more money. All this stuff. It ain't. So keep all that in mind. Now, let's get to it. Okay. Ross Dellinger. This morning, an update on playoff expansion. Commissioners are expected to get a presentation from the CFP director, Rich Clark, this week during the annual meetings this year in Asheville. The presentation will focus on adjustments to the strength of schedule metric used by the selection committee. The presentation will focus on adjustments to the strength of schedule metric. Exactly what the SEC wants. We are going to talk about Heather Dinich, Don Scruggs. We're going to get there. Mr. Georgia Bulldog, we're going to get to Heather Dinich. Buckle up. Clark and the CFP staff has spent the last several weeks studying ways to create data points to be used in the playoff selection that are more heavily weighted on a team's strength of schedule. Even using outside mathematicians and data analysis to assist in the endeavor. Are you kidding me? What are we doing? What are we doing? The strength of schedule, yes, it's an important Yes, it's always been used. It has always been used, but it cannot be used to the point where 9-3 Alabama, who lost to Vanderbilt, who got drubbed by a 6-6 Oklahoma team, lost 24-3 late in the season, jumps over another team's 11-1 record when it. Come on, guys. Come on. What are we doing? What are we doing? This is insanity. The strength of schedule is already part of it. But what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do? You see these early polls. It's all a self-fulfilling prophecy going on. You see these early polls dominated by the SEC and somewhat by the Big Ten. And then, of course, when they play each other and when you... They're cooking the books, man. They're cooking the books. And now they want to tweak it even more to where it's more of the strength of schedule. Basically it's this. If you're 9-3 in the ACC, they're going to expect that you jump over anybody that's 11-1 in the Big 12 and almost everybody in the ACC. Okay, let me finish this up. The adjustments are seen as a step to maintaining the selection committee's role in a playoff that incorporates a big number of at-large spots, such as the proposed 16-team 5+11 at-large format. SEC officials have publicly encouraged such a change to the selection criteria. Ladies and gentlemen, if we would have had a 16-team playoff last year, the SEC would have gotten 6 teams in. Six. Without tweaking the metrics. 6. The Big 12 would have gotten 1. And that's not good enough. That's not good enough. Really? What are we doing? College football playoff expansion to 16 may hinge on a selection criteria change. God almighty. The SEC's move toward an automatic qualifying heavy format. Big 10 supports 4-4-2-2-1. Was stymied as a pushback, even from its coaches, shifted the league to a format with a bigger at-large pool, if the selection criteria is adjusted. However, per a memorandum of understanding signed last spring, the SEC and the Big Ten together hold authority over future format. Their disagreements creates a fascinating situation that could end in no expansion in 2026. Heather Dinich, CFP leaders are meeting in Asheville, North Carolina next week, and multiple sources are doubtful any decisions will be made on the playoff format for 2026 and beyond. The Big Ten and the SEC have the bulk control over it, and they're not on the same page. They were. You forgot to add that, Heather. Many leaders in the Big Ten don't want to consider a 5+11 format unless the SEC and ACC go to 9 league games. There are still enough questions that multiple sources say they wouldn't be surprised if the format remains at 12 teams in 26. That's good. Keep it at 12. Keep it at 12 through the whole length of the contract if you need to, Big Ten. I guess my question is, they're meeting in Asheville next week. No, this week. I'm sorry, this week. The presentation will focus on adjustments to the strength of schedule. The SEC, the Southeastern Conference, has complaints about last year's selection. Well, there's always going to be complaints. This year it's going to be the Big Ten maybe complaining, or the Big 12. Or the Big 12 had complaints last season. Could be the ACC this time. 1 year of an expanded playoffs to 12, and the SEC did not like it that their 9-3 teams did not make the playoffs. 9-3 teams can make the playoffs. But these 9-3 teams, one team lost to Kentucky at home, and Alabama lost to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. And they're expected to jump other teams. And, by the way, if it was a 16-team playoffs last year, the SEC would have gotten 6 teams in. So the criteria that the Southeastern Conference doesn't think is fair, the criteria that the Southeastern Conference wants to change, even though they got 6 teams in, if it would have been more of an expanded playoffs last year, it's still not good enough. Not good enough. Big 12, what are you doing? Honestly. I get the argument. I completely understand the argument. Yormark cannot come out and publicly state that he is for the 4-4-2-2-1-3 because it puts the Big 12 in a second-class citizenship. I understand that argument. But in private, Yormark has got to tell Sankey, you got to go to 9 games. Because if you don't go to 9 games, the Big 12 is screwed. How can you not think different? How can you think differently? And they're trying to change the metric. What are we doing here? What is the Big 12 and the ACC doing? Why are they going along to get along with the SEC right now? What is up? Well, I get it. I get it. Silent Tony has lost the room. Silent Tony got played. Silent Tony politically is getting pushed to the side. But why is the Big 12 and the ACC going along to get along with the SEC? I don't get it. I don't get it, and I am very interested to see what you guys got to say in the comments and with your phone calls. Something is, and why I am lit up today, and why other people are lit up in the Big Ten is because this presentation in Asheville, why is it even happening? To be cordial? To be professional? Why is it even why hasn't the Big Ten already shut this down? Maybe they can't. Maybe they can't. Maybe because Rich Clark is whatever the position that he had. But the Big Ten's gotta let the SEC know. that this shall not pass. This shall not work. This isn't going to happen. Statistically, it's way too much of an advantage for the Southeastern Conference. And then you're going to tweak the metrics for strength of schedule. That only helps the SEC. Big 12, I've always given my flowers to Brett Yormark on October 30th, 2022. I declared here at Peek Around the Corner that he just hit a grand slam when he signed the media deal with ESPN and Fox, when about 90% of the other college football YouTube channels said that the Big 12 left money on the table and the Pac-12 is going to separate themselves from the Big 12. I said the opposite. I've given Brett Yormark his flowers. But on this, man, he is going to bury the Big 12. Not in a 1 year data, not in maybe 2 years, but the next 5 years. If you are participating in supporting the SEC's version, their vision of the college football playoffs, going to 16 teams, staying at 8 games for them, and having the strength of schedule be more in the metrics, be more impactful, you are playing right into Sankey's hands. And there's only can be 2 reasons for it. Or there's only 2 different pathways for it. One pathway is, you are out to lunch. You do not understand. The other one is, there's something else that has been promised to the Big 12. Something is going on. Either way, Silent Tony being silent doesn't work anymore. And for those who keep supporting his style, substance over style, Greg. Don't you understand, Greg? Substance over style. There's a problem with that. The problem is the style of Kevin Warren inside the Big Ten corporate office did not lead to trust. It led to only chaos. And he felt the heat. He got out of the kitchen. He grabbed the first train out of Chicago. That way he's back in the Chicago for the Chicago Bears. That style that Kevin Warren was terrible. Silent Tony's style is 180 degrees difference. But man, the distrust is building up. It has been for months. I've given you guys the peek on that. He's got to say something in public. So the Big Ten country, when I say Big Ten country, I'm talking about leaders, I'm talking about money, I'm talking about boosters, I'm talking about all the connective tissues to the Big Ten Conference. They've got to hear you talk. You can't be just sitting in these subgroups. You can't be just talking to a few handful of peoples in the Big Ten. You've got to talk in front of the microphone. You did not defend the Big Ten's position on the playoffs. So for those that were attacking your position, they got a free rein. There was no pushback from you. None. You wanted it, but you could not fight for it. What is the next subject that you're going to want to have, but you can't fight for it? I'm telling you, man, the distrust is inside the Big Ten. Wow. Okay, let's hop on. Let's hop on to the next rock and rant. Laughing out loud, laughing Big Ten. Also, in my opinion, you're very wrong in the playoffs. Sorry, Greg, you can never accept being second publicly. Again, that's not what I said. I even said it again. I completely understand why Brett Yormark and Phillips is saying what they are saying publicly. I said privately, they've got to tell Sankey that he's got to go to 9 conference games for 5 plus 11. I am not ripping on Yormark, what he's saying publicly. So people keep telling me this, but that's not what I'm doing. I appreciate the membership, though, Rock and Rant. Thank you so much. 17 months. I am not ripping. I'm ripping on Yormark. He's Phillips. And in fact, I'll take it one step further. Yormark should be saying in public, yeah, 5 plus 11. And the SEC's got to go to 9 games. The Big 12's at 9 games. Brett Yormark should be saying to the ACC, you got to go to 9 games. But I'm not ripping on him saying he's not for the 4-4-2-2-1-3 in public. Not at all. Thank you so much. You are officially knighted, cloak and dagger, once again. Ryan Thomas, ESPN may be threatening the ACC and the Big 12. Super chat, thank you so much. I don't know. There probably is, I don't know what's going on there, Ryan. You may be correct. There may be this ESPN, tribe like the Big 12 and the AC. Obviously, the ACC, all their content is distributed by ESPN, and the Big 12, basically half of it. That could be. That very well could be. Okay, let's get to the next big story here. College realignment. Intel. Texas State cryptic post and the Pac-12's next move. In the cloak and dagger world of conference realignment, clues to potential moves can manifest in strange places. One emerged last week via an X account with 313 followers promoting Texas State tailback Lincoln Pear for the Heisman Trophy. The account included a picture, cribbed from an Instagram story, of the Texas State president of 2 beavers floating in the San Marcos River, and it noted the potential realignment ramifications. Beavers in the San Marcos River, by including a scratching chin emoji that hinted at the possibility of Texas State joining Oregon State in the Pac-12. This likely would have faded into the background of the social media sphere if Texas State president hadn't reposted on June 10th. That set off a spark in the wake of a regularly scheduled Pac-12 meeting earlier in the week when Texas State's candidacy was a focus of discussion. So what's next for the Pac-12? And what ripples could buzz through the kinetic realignment landscape? Here's what could be coming in the next wave of realignment, which is expected to occur outside of the power conferences. Texas State is the heavy favorite, per ESPN sources, to be issued a formal Pac-12 invitation. The league still is engaged with other schools, per sources, but Texas State has clearly emerged at the forefront of that group. On July 1st, the buyout for Texas State to lead the Sun Belt for the 26-27 season will rise from $5 million to $10 million. This is obviously a bigger motivator for Texas State than the Pac-12, but it's seemingly a significant enough deadline to trigger action. So Texas State want to get this done before July 1st, or that buyout is going to go up. We are sitting here on June 16th. For the Pac-12 to bring in a new partner in the time of financial uncertainty for the league, it would make sense to offer Texas State prior to July 1st. Pac-12 needs an 8th football member. In realignment, of course, nothing is official until it's signed, and nothing is formal until it's completed. So at the Texas State and the Pac-12, sources said the best way to explain the courtship is that the league is currently exploring making an offer in the upcoming weeks. Texas State has loomed for months as the favorite to join the league. Was discussed at the Pac-12's meeting early this week. It's been the top target for months, as we have said here at Peek Around the Corner. It is truly the only school we have talked about here at Peek Around the Corner. Texas State is a booming university. G.J. Kinney, the coach, a couple of years ago, he came strolling in at Texas State, and he has flipped that program around. The league's president won't vote on Texas State until they are ready for the process to unfold in rapid-fire succession. What's expected to come before July 1st? Texas State turned down a verbal offer from the Mountain West last fall. Texas State, if the Pac-12 process unfolds as expected, would be the league's 9th member overall, 8th football member. Part of the feeling and inevitability of the invitation is tied to necessity. The league needs to grow to 8 football members in order to qualify as an FBS conference. Gonzaga is a non-football member. Internally, at the Pac-12, Texas State has long been viewed as the best readily available option for that 8th spot. The exit fee looms as a significant motivator as Texas State would join to start the 2026 season. Where does the Pac-12 go next? The Pac-12 has flailed a little bit since initially adding Fresno State, San Diego State, Boise State, Colorado State. It failed to add UNLV and Air Force before adding Utah State. The league's goal was to add schools like Tulane, but they had little interest. They had interest in adding Memphis. It hit a hard stop because of finances. The exit fee to leave the AAC prior to the 27-month mark was estimated around $25 million. The Pac-12 only offered $2.5 million. Yeah, you can see why Memphis and Tulane and possibly UTSA, you can see why they rejected it. Where the Pac-12 goes beyond the 8th member is heavily tied to some clarity on the league's financial future. The league's television deal with at least 3 partners is expected to come together in the coming weeks. The timing of that deal, however, is not necessarily tied to the looming announcement of an 8th football playing school. In April, the Pac-12 agreed to the deal with CW, ESPN, CBS to show the 13 home football games involving Oregon State, Washington State in 2025. Those partnerships are not binding in 26. But Teresa Gould said previously the conference was looking for partners in 25 that expressed interest in longer-term affiliations. So it's a good hint, not official, not in public anyways, nothing that I know, but it's a good hint that the CW, ESPN, and CBS are going to be a part of the Pac-12's future. The finances of the new TV deal are expected to be below what the league's consultants pitched to the schools initially. In the wake of initial flurry of schools going to the league, ESPN reported schools were shown projected revenue from a TV deal north of $10 million per school. But conditions have changed. That number projects under $10 million for the new deal starting in 2026, but is still expected to be more than those schools would have received had they remained in the Mountain West. What's next for Memphis? In many ways, Memphis looms as the most interesting chess piece of future realignment outside of the power leagues. It has strong basketball program, 11 consecutive years of bowl eligibility in football, and significant outside financial support available. There doesn't appear to be much immediate interest in Memphis from the power leagues per sources, and that remains Memphis' ultimate goal, to get to the other side of the river. Here at Peek Around the Corner, we call it jumping over the wall. SMU was the last team so far to jump over that wall into the Power Four conferences. If Memphis can't figure out a way into the Power League in the next few years, and there's no imminent realignment moves expected at that level, again, as we have said here at Peek Around the Corner for months, there's no imminent moves expected in the Power Four conference level. Nothing imminent. A lot of action, but nothing imminent. And there's likely to be further exploration of some type of split conference affiliation. Pac-12 officials have discussed per sources Memphis coming on in as a football-only member. The rest of the athletic department sports would go to the Big East. This would allow Memphis to maximize basketball revenue going against strong competition and save on the travel of non-revenue sports going out west. The calculus in Memphis decision-making will depend on a myriad of factors. That includes the amount of media deals in the Pac-12 and what happens with that league's mediation with the Mountain West. Memphis made $11 million all in the AAC last year. That's number expected to be ahead of what the Pac-12 will pay its full members. What would a combination look like? The new Big East deal is expected to dole out nearly $7 million per school annually. So the Memphis question would be whether its added inventory could grow the pie to keep that number whole. So if Memphis sports, basketball, pretty much go to the Big East, would it still be $7 million? Would Memphis get $7 million? If so, the combination of Memphis going to the Big East and all their sports, but going to the Pac-12 and football only, could make more revenue than they do now. Memphis is such a crucial piece to the cluster of leagues outside the power conferences, as it's one of the AAC's bell cows. And a Memphis departure could create potential ripples, which is why its upcoming moves are the linchpin of any significant upcoming movement. The expectation in the Pac-12 is that no movement from Memphis to the Pac-12 Big East would be expected to be seriously discussed until at least the 27-28 start date. So, Memphis most likely staying in the AAC as they are, and this whole subject is probably going to get reintroduced Everyone's going to be talking about it sometime next year in the offseason. What would be the dominoes of the Pac-12 adding Texas State? While sources stress that there's been no formal invitation yet for Texas State, the move has reached the point where the Sun Belt is preparing for departure. The Sun Belt had started to put together contingency plans in the fall because Texas State was talking with the Mountain West Conference and the Pac-12 all the way back then. That included conversations per sources that established Louisiana Tech as the favorite over several other targets, including Western Kentucky, if Texas State were to leave. So Louisiana Tech could be moving from Conference USA to the Sun Belt if Texas State leaves the Sun Belt. Louisiana Tech's location aids it here as the Sun Belt plays in divisions in football, and a Texas State departure would mean a vacancy in the West Sun Belt. The early appeal of the Louisiana Tech that has been talked about per sources is that it has a geographic location to create natural rivalries and easy travel with University of Louisiana Monroe, Louisiana, and Southern Miss. All are in the same geographic footprint. And Louisiana Tech brings a strong tradition of baseball and softball, which are valued by the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt's realignment strategy for years has been to double down on regional rivalries, and Louisiana Tech would fall into that category. So the Sun Belt strategy is not to expand the footprint, it's to double down on regional rivalries. Western Kentucky would be attractive because of the program's strong history in football and long-standing success in men's basketball. It would have some support from schools in the East, but the early read is that Louisiana Tech is ahead. So if the Texas State Bobcats leave the Sun Belt and goes to the Pac-12, which we believe is going to happen, then right now it looks like Louisiana Tech is the favorite to replace Texas State in the Sun Belt. So, very interesting. Bill G, congrats to Gage Wood of Arkansas. No hitter. 3-0 victory for Arkansas today. Absolutely. Thank you, Bill G. Thank you again. Once again, thank you for becoming a member for 18 months and all of your generosity. Thank you, Bill G. You are officially knighted Cloak and Dagger. Thank you, Rock and Rant, as well. First no-hitter in 65 years in the College World Series. I think he had 19 strikeouts. I could be wrong, but I think I heard he had 19 strikeouts. Correct? Okay, we are going to open up for phone calls here. We did not have a live show on Sunday, so we got to make sure we get to your phone calls early on. Again, California Athletic Director Jim Knowlton is gone. He's been the athletic director at California since 2018. The athletic directors of California, of Stanford, and of SMU, when they all entered the ACC, those athletic directors are now gone, or Jim Knowlton will be leaving. Pete Thamel also reported going forward, California football coach Justin Wilcox will report to the football general manager Ron Rivera. And remember, if I remember correctly, let me know if I got this wrong, but there was kind of a split in California athletics where a lot of people brought on Ron Rivera, and they wanted him, they didn't want there to be any space between Justin Wilcox and Ron Rivera. They wanted to be that direct line from the head coach to Ron Rivera. They wanted Ron Rivera, the general manager, to be accountable for everything that goes on in college football. The athletic director, he'll handle the other parts. But they wanted Ron Rivera to be the guy. Well, now he's the guy, right? Now he is the guy. Justin Wilcox will report to football general manager Ron Rivera. My question is the following. And I know we got a few California Bears in the house, or in our PATC family. My question is, if the candidates out there to become the new athletic director of California, would any top athletic director be interested when Ron Rivera seems to be the guy who's going to be making all the college football decisions? Traditionally, historically, your athletic director, of course, he manages the whole athletic department, but the prime component, the most valuable piece of your athletic department is your football program. And athletic directors were judged, fairly or not, on how the football program was doing under their guidance. What athletic director out there in the country looking to move up possibly, looking to go westward, looking to go to California, looking to be part of a great university like the University of California, what athletic director would want to take that job if they are not making the decisions in and around the college football program? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. If any California Bears, go Bears. Gene, call around. Let me know, Gene, in the comment section or with your phone calls. Is that a worry that your athletic director, the new one's coming in? Yep, the boosters wanted Ron Rivera calling the shots. Okay, let's get to your phone calls. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. The line is open. The phone line is open. Two big major stories. Texas State. As a couple months ago, we did a live show. One Pac-12 expansion candidate stands above all others. We had been told it was Texas State. That they were the number one. And it looks like it's going to end up that way. Before July 1st. Hopefully for Texas State, it happens before July 1st. Because that buyout goes from $5 million to $10 million to get out of the Sun Belt Conference. Should happen before July 1st. Texas State looks like it's happening. Is there going to be a ninth team? Are they talking to other schools? I don't believe there is going to be another team right now. In the future, I think that's a strong possibility. I think the Pac-12 is going to expand, but are they going to expand before July 1st? Right now, peek around the corner, we do not have another school. We do not have another candidate. That there's not that chatter there is no door open to us on that question. You know, we speculated months ago. We speculated like a year ago. Could there be the Texas two-step? I've asked. There is no steam on that, on a second Texas school, as far as we know. So we shall see. We shall see. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. 1333. And then the big story, another big story that we talked about in the monologue, DEFCON 2. Big Ten ain't happy. Big Ten is not happy.
From
CFP Plus.
CFP Plus, thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours.
Well, thanks, Greg. I want to talk a little bit about the playoff situation and the SEC, the 5+11 model.
Yep.
Also, I'm driving, so I apologize if there's any background noise.
No problem.
You can just cut me off if it's too much.
Yep.
But
problem.
in regards to the Big 12 and Brett Yormark, as well as ACC, I really don't see another option for them. I think the 5+11 model is really the only model that makes logical sense from a football standpoint. Now, I understand, I guess, your argument saying that the SEC is going to try and rig it so that their strength of schedule will basically get them a whole bunch of teams in, and it will bury the Big 12 and the ACC, which is, I think, valid. But I think really the concern should not be on the SEC, but in more so that we need to address the bias, because the fact that BYU was not in consideration in the playoffs last time, I think is just ridiculous. And if we don't address that, then we're just eventually, like, we're not really solving the problem. We're just putting a bandage on a deep wound. And there's no other option for Brett Yormark to go. And if the SEC doesn't go to 9 conference games, that could very well backfire on them, because that could be held against them. You know, I don't know how likely that is, but it's definitely a risk and a gamble. So I don't think the situation, in particularly for the Big 12 and the ACC, in regards to the 5+11, is as bad as I guess you would say it is, but it's probably not as great as everyone else thinks it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Again, the perception of the Big Ten is the SEC is having their cake and eating it too, and they're putting a whole bunch of frosting on it, and they're licking it all up, because they're having the best of both worlds, right? The strength of schedule. They get all this early season, all these big, great rankings, and so it helps. It's just a self-fulfilling. It makes it statistically that you're going to have a great strength of schedule, because early on you're being perceived as beating a good team or losing to a good team based upon rankings, these early season rankings. I'm going to have to shut you down here because you're making there's a lot of noise coming through. I appreciate the call, CFP Plus.
Understandable.
I'm going to answer it. I'm going to keep answering it, though, okay? Appreciate it. Thank you, CFP Plus, for the call. Beautiful. So that is so you've got this strength of schedule that they want to keep. The Southeastern Conference wants to make it even more important to the criteria. But on the other hand, they're only playing 8 conference games. They're going to have less. They're going to have less losses within their conference. They're having the best of both worlds. And by the way, the SEC are not happy with the criteria that would have landed them 6 teams in the playoffs last year. They're not happy with that criteria. I'm not asking or debating or anything to do with what Brett Yormark is saying about the 4-4-2-2-1-3. What I'm saying is that Brett Yormark should be saying in public, the SEC and the ACC got to go to 9 league games. Or he's got to say in private, to Mr. Sankey, you got to play 9 league games. I mean, Brett Yormark is talking about winning it on the field, earning it on the field. You're going statistically. I mean, everybody that's done the data on this has shown the same thing. All of them, Bill Conley, Scott Docterman, they've all shown the same stuff. Look at Bill Conley's article of 3 weeks ago. 5+11 in the SEC staying at 8 conference games is going to chew the Big 12 and the ACC up. So, okay, 5+11, fantastic. But, and I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it. There's a couple of different stories here. One is the Big Ten got played. They made everybody know. The Big Ten, everybody knew the Big Ten's position. They went out there. They thought they had the SEC with them. They did not. The SEC turned around and whatever. But when that happened, Tony Petitti did not stand up for his position in public. This argument that Tony Petitti doesn't have to say anything, it's ridiculous. He's a commissioner. Of course you got to say something in public once in a while.
From
Movie Time Blues.
Movie Time Blues, the floor is yours. Thanks for the call, my man.
Yes, the way I see it, the Big Ten handcuffs itself by staying in the NCAA because the Big Ten has to operate within the calendar of the NCAA. And when you have sports like baseball, which is played in months where the weather is different depending on the geography of the United States, and then you have different cultural and economic differences, try to stay within a large organization like that when there are different interests between one conference and another conference. I think it's a matter of time before people are going to start talking about separate associations.
Yes. True.
Delaney talked about
football is already out of the NCAA's grasp. That is already separate. I mean, it's the NCAA does not control anything to do with the college football playoffs or the regular season. They still have something to do with eligibility rules and sportsmanship rules, but beyond that, they don't have any control over football. So the Big Ten is getting played outside of the NCAA arena. You know what I'm saying? They got played by the SEC on this.
Yeah, but it's a symbol of something much deeper than the football issue. The SEC represents a different culture from the Big Ten. It's not like, if it was like the, same a group of schools within one cultural framework, then okay, we could talk about what's the issue with football. But it's a deeper problem than football.
I understand what you're saying. I do. I understand what you're saying. There is a lot of differences, no question about it. But I mean, all that is true. And in this case, the football question, in where the SEC and the Big Ten were meeting in these advisory meetings, and the Big Ten thought that there was alignment, and the SEC went completely 180 degrees on them without giving them a heads up. And now they're trucking along, and they're going to try to have a presentation that only to tweak a metric that only helps the SEC even more. And Tony Petit is not saying a word in public, and nobody is saying a word in public to say, SEC, you got to go to 9 conference games. I know the Big Ten is saying it privately. It's people are pissed, Movie Time Blues. People are pissed in the Big Ten, in Big Ten country.
Delaney talked about this when he suggested that the Big Ten go to Division III. That was back when there was talk about whether there was going to be pay for play. So at least the Big Ten was aware of the challenges that the college sports was going to go through, and now here we are, and it seems that they're being caught flat-footed.
Yeah.
But my main point is that there is a institutional there are institutional differences that these cannot be swept under the rug. But I'm not mad at the SEC for pursuing their best interest. That's what's expected of them. It's expected of every different conference. Same with the Big 12. They're gonna do what they're gonna do to keep to keep at the adults table, keep their place in the adults table.
Yeah. I agree with you. Everyone's looking out for their self-interest. Some of them are doing it in public and in private. Some of them are, I hope to God, when we get some reports out of Asheville, I hope someone says none of this is going to happen in public, that someone says none of this is going to happen until the SEC goes to 9 conference games. Because this is like everybody, this is a complete waste of time to be talking about these metrics and everything. The SEC has got to confirm to everybody that they're going to 9 conference games. If they're not, that's their decision. That is their best interest. But it's definitely the best interest of the Big 12 and the Big 10 to say, okay, then we're going to go back to 5+7. Because mathematically, the 5+11 puts the SEC thoroughbred 400 yards in front of a 1.5 furlong race. You cannot have that. As a commissioner, as your institutions in your conference, you cannot allow that to happen.
I'm fine with staying with 12 anyway.
Okay. I'm fine too. So in fact, this is the playoff that I most like, is this version. So I'm fine with it. But I had to give everybody the peek around the corner. There are a lot of people in Big Ten country are asking the question, what the hell's going on? Why isn't our commissioner literally does not talk in public? Have you ever seen a commissioner not talk in public like Tony Petitti? Ever? No.
I think
The commissioner's job is to sell your conference. Everybody give Phillips a hard time for not standing up for Florida State before the selection committee. I mean, this is even bigger. This is like standing up for your whole conference. It's okay to say something in public. Why the fear of saying something in public? Sankey's saying stuff all the time. Why can't the Big Ten commissioner do it? It's driving people absolutely nuts. That's your peek around the corner today. Anything else, Movie Time Blues?
That's on the Big Ten presidents for overreacting to Warren. I think it was the overreaction. I understand, Warren has a big mouth, but you need somebody to represent a conference. You need somebody to say, here's our position on what should happen in college sports. I don't know if at least even Delaney had to talk once in a while.
Yeah, it wasn't just Big Ten presidents. It was the media. It was Fox that had a huge problem with Kevin Warren. So it wasn't just the presidents. It was not the right job for Kevin Warren. He did very good on the most important issue, which was the media negotiations. But everything else, he was a complete disaster in the office. When it came to relationships with media partners, presidents, everybody.
I have a question.
Yep.
Do you think it's possible that the Pac-12 will add more than one Texas program?
I think eventually it is. I don't think it's going to happen before July 1st of this year. I have not heard. We used to talk about the Texas two-step, right? All the time for the Pac-12. But over the last 6 months, the only school that I talked about really was Texas State. A couple of months ago, we did a live show on it. I'll put it up on the screen again. And they stood above every other candidate. That's what we were being told. We do not have any information of a North Texas or a UTSA or anybody else at this point in time. But eventually I could see it. Yes, sir. What about you? What do you think about that?
I think they have to, the entire Pac-12, it's quite possible that there will be no movement within the A4. So nobody moves out of the A4. So therefore, everyone else below them, they stay the same. So maybe then the Pac-12 might consider getting more stable, and they could make some, have more confidence in becoming stronger as a membership. So they don't need to have to, look behind them, see if a program like a San Diego State might leave in another 5 years. So I think, the Pac-12 should really consider having a much bigger presence in the state of Texas.
All righty, sir. I appreciate the call, Movie Time Blues.
No problem.
You got it, buddy. Thank you.
All right.
Beautiful call, Movie Time Blues, long-time PATC family member, Expedition Greg, gifted membership, John Rudinsky. John Rudinsky, hold on 1 second.
Call from
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant, can you give me a moment, please?
Absolutely.
I appreciate it. Expedition Greg, thank you so much for the gifted membership to John Rudinsky. John, when you get an opportunity, please say thank you to Expedition Greg for his generosity. Both of you are officially knighted Cloak and Dagger. John, when you get an opportunity, you can go to our library of episodes and watch early peak Cloak and Dagger early membership only episodes. You can watch all the episodes in our library of shows. Thank you, Expedition Greg. Thank you so very much. Rock and Rant, Mr. Hurricane is on the line. The floor is yours.
So first, again, laugh out loud at our friend the Big Ten. I will worry about him being my commissioner one day if I have to worry about him being my commissioner. But here, I posted what I did earlier before you went on your rant, so I get what you're saying. Here's the thing when it comes to all this to me. If 8 weeks ago you said, by luck or strategy, the ACC and the Big 12 and the G5, whoever was participating, if it was all your mark, if it was just dumb luck, we're going to make the SEC and Big Ten in a fight, would you say that's the first step of trying to win a war because that battle nobody thought you could win?
I can barely
before you
understand.
can get anywhere else.
Go ahead.
Before you can get anywhere else, you need the Big Ten and SEC to be at war with each other.
Yes.
Right? Because they already had the power.
Yep.
Right? And if 8 weeks ago we said, we're going to be at this place where the Big Ten and the SEC don't like each other, you would be like, well done. However that happened.
Yep.
Dumb luck or complete strategy, right?
Yep.
That's my point. Whatever's happening in Asheville right now, whatever meeting they're having, the only thing the Big 12, ACC, I'll give Jim Phillips 1 ounce of credit in whatever's going on. And the G5, the only thing you guys want to do is the following. You want to make the decision on 2026 come as close to December 1st as humanly possible, because the things you need are leverage of some degree against the vote you already gave up and perception to influence that leverage. And what you can hope for is right now the SEC is in a world where, yes, the FPI came out and everyone's like, oh my God, look at all the SEC schools. But there's also another world of everybody's sick of the SEC. And that's no disrespect. I'll do my caveat. You're the best. You're the great. We love you. You're the smartest people ever. We get that. Put that aside. But from the playoff to crying about Alabama for 6 months while ignoring what you talked about for Florida State for a year and a half, to the basketball tournament, to the baseball tournament, there's a thing out there about the SEC right now. So the one thing you could get lucky on is while all of this stuff is happening and you don't get to your decision on the playoff, and for a moment, because you keep spreading it out, you create new alliances and you hope that Clemson and Miami and another ACC school start off really strong through the first 8 or 9 games into November. And BYU or Kansas State or Iowa State or wherever are also really strong in the beginning of the year. Because maybe when all of this final decision is happening, you have this SEC overrated narrative come back into play or continue into play, or they keep trying. And then when they're making the decision, look at the rankings. Despite how bad the FPI was, people actually did something on the field. And then all of a sudden, the whole conversation could happen. The other thing I would just say is your first goal is to split the two. The next move might be exactly what you're talking about. Big 12, ACC to a lesser degree. You allied with the SEC now. You don't have to ally with the SEC for the next step on what the data is. Maybe you tweak it in some way. But now you can go along with the Big 10 and the ACC and the Big 12 and the G5 against the SEC and what the data is going to be, or the 9 games. So I think you just have to play that pivoting alliances and play this out as best as possible to see if maybe you get a little bit of luck in the narrative that's out there. And that's where I digress on the strategy of how loud you should be or not be or whatever else might come, because that's the best path you got, is to stretch this out, to make those guys be at war with each other and see if your teams perform on the field that changes the narrative before a final vote has to come.
That's a great phone call. I get what you're saying. Great phone call. Maybe I'm not giving Phillips and Yormark enough credit maybe, or maybe we're giving them too much credit. Maybe they didn't think there was
Absolutely.
but
They deserve zero credit for the two big guys eating each other up, right? They just might be blind luck, which is why I threw it in there. But situationally, you're still happy, right? Like, that's what you want, is them not to be going out on Friday night dates together.
Yeah. Here's okay. So this is I'm going to take this in a little bit of a different direction. Okay.
Sure.
A little bit. The reason why I went a little bit dramatic today. Okay. The reason why my title screen is DEFCON 2 damage done. The reason why I'm saying this is, well, number one, there's a lot of pissed off people, okay? And I'm talking
Absolutely.
Big Ten country, okay?
Of course.
Okay.
Understandable.
Okay, so here's why I got DEFCON 2. A lot, I see the people in the chat saying the SEC doesn't look at the Big Ten as equals. SEC presidents mock the Big Ten, football's boring. I'm seeing all these comments in the chat room. First of all, Big Ten football's not boring. I don't know what the hell you guys watch, but anyways, that's just my personal opinion. Here's the thing. When the SEC, when Texas and Oklahoma called Sankey, when Sankey was in the meeting with Bowlesby trying to create the new college football playoffs, right? There was nothing that Texas and Oklahoma, there was nothing the Big 12 could do about it. Rock and Rat. I mean, it was a terrible blow to the Big 12. A big boost to the SEC. Texas and Oklahoma had their reasons. SEC's looking out for the SEC, okay? When the Big Ten stabbed the Pac-12 in the front and the back and poached from their sister conference, USC and UCLA, it was the beginning of a death spiral. There's nothing that the Pac-12 could do about it, correct? After that happened.
100% agree.
But in this case, that's not the case. In this case, the Big Ten, I mean, I'm not just saying this. I mean, this stuff has been like, first of all, it's been publicly out there, but it has been explained, the PATC. I mean, the Big Ten and the SEC thought that they thought that this was going to be the new world order, okay? And it didn't even last a year. And it was on the simplest. It was on something that they had total control of power over. They did not have to play. They had to play some finesse. They had to have input and blah 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 blah. And the Big Ten got absolutely played. Not only did the Big Ten get played, but Silent Tony couldn't even muster the defense of what his vision and what they thought they sold the SEC on. So when the SEC was kind of getting a little wobbly, right, in Destin, Florida, and when the coaches spoke up and some athletic directors still don't like blah, blah, they're going back and forth. Silent Tony couldn't even say anything in public. And there's so many people in the chat room that say that's not important. Come on, man. The commissioner has to talk in public, guys. He does.
Well, let's play devil's advocate, though, right? And this is just fun because I'm just on the popcorn with this, eating popcorn on the sidelines with everyone not in those two conferences. And look, maybe Tony Petitti went to the Jim Phillips School of Leadership, and that's why this is happening. But Greg Sankey was loud as hell, right?
Yeah.
About it. And he got friggin' dunked on by his head coaches at a conference meeting. Their athletic directors got dunked on by their coaches. So he talks a lot, and he couldn't rein his own coaches in. And their athletic directors are supposed to be their bosses, couldn't do it either. And, you know, granted, everything could flip, and tomorrow everything goes backwards. But if you're the but Sankey talks a lot and still in the same boat.
I know, but you cannot have this decided by SEC coaches alone. And by the way, Greg Sankey said at the beginning of the SEC spring meetings, this is the first time. He said this, Google it. Sankey said this is the first time I've had deep discussions about this with coaches and athletic directors. My God, what have you been doing?
So then you realize, right, if you're your mark, let's say that's not just Sankey saying whatever, right? Let's say that he's actually true about that. Then I guess the great Sankey isn't the master strategist that we thought, because how would you come in there and get blindsided at your meetings that you intentionally, versus what the Big Ten do, use as this big media event to get the hype on you, and then you get owned at the owned event that you did.
Or
he's playing the Big Ten from the beginning, in which case that's like the definition of sometimes it's easier to get along with your enemy because you always know where they're coming from. But your frenemy is the worst.
Or this is what Sankey wanted all along, because he wanted the 12-team no conference champions, right?
Right. And he found a path to get where he wanted, and he's like, cool, like, I'm not coming to pick you up tonight for dinner.
But the reason why this is DEFCON 2 is because, and the damage has been done. I mean, the trust, again, this is strictly a PATC. Nobody has written this article yet, but I'm telling you, there was little trust before any of this, but now it is. The reason why it's DEFCON 2, because now the Big Ten is not. I mean, it ain't like they are staggered in the sense of they've lost the narrative. They've had a political cost to this. It looks like they're on their own. Tony Petitti could not even defend what he was pushing when everybody else is defending what they're pushing. But the Big Ten is still able to answer back. And I don't know how they're going to answer back. I don't know when they're going to answer back. But Rock and Rant, there is too much below the surface percolating under Tony Petitti, just like in other events that have happened where they're going to answer back. They are. And some of those options out there, you know, like I've said, maybe they rip up the script. Maybe they push the schedule a little bit more aggressive because nothing is imminent right now. But my God, something is going to, because the Big Ten people are pissed, and it's eventually, and I think it already has. I think there's no question that Tony Petitti knows this. No question that he knows that
he would have to be
pissed.
really dumb. He'd have to be really dumb not to. And now, if you think there's any strategy going on from anybody else, the next thing you do, like if you're the Big 12 and the ACC, and I'm going to keep the card to your mark because we all know who Jim Phillips is. All right, we just had this happen. We allied with the SEC for a moment. Other than the FPI being factored in more into the strength of schedule for the college football committee, what's the next worst thing that could happen to the Big 12 and the ACC if that were to happen? Is for the scheduling agreement to happen between the Big Ten and the SEC. So now you take that away and you can triangulate again back onto the 9-game issue that you're talking about. You know, the ACC has a slightly different issue there because it's not have the right numbers, but it could figure something out. But that's what you're doing. Like, you just want to keep extending this and give more like divorces and lawsuits and everything else to come in play. And that's where I kind of stand on it. Let alone you just don't want to start signaling to recruits right away that you're the second fiddle conference. But anyway, I've taken up too much time.
Alrighty, man. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, Greg. Be good, everyone.
Beautiful Rock and Rant. Okay, phone lines are open. 763-260-1333. It has been a spirited show. It has been electrifying. If you're new to the channel, if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe and turn on those notifications. We can come on live at any time at all. The Big Ten is sure getting dumped on here in the chat room. Holy smokes. Michigan did not have they didn't have a quarterback who could throw the ball. Iowa hasn't not been able to throw the ball. Big Ten.
Call from
Moen.
Moen is on the line. The floor is yours. Man, I am getting shredded by the PATC family tonight. Holy smokes. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I think it's interesting you mentioned that the SEC feels there's a superiority, and I agree with them. I think the Big Ten is superior to the SEC in every way. Won the last 2 national championships. The Big Ten team who didn't even play in their conference championship last year, ran through Tennessee, ran through Texas. The SEC didn't put up much of a fight last year. Let's be honest, Texas shouldn't even have beaten Arizona State. So I don't know where the SEC superiority is coming from, because it's pretty damn clear that they're the inferior conference. When we started being able to legally pay players, isn't it amazing how much the Big Ten and all these other conferences improved, and the SEC suddenly fell off?
The gap has definitely closed. No question about it. Yeah.
And then you say, well, Michigan's got a quarterback who can't even throw. Well, Michigan, with a quarterback that couldn't even throw, beat the national champion last year. And by the way, they went and beat Alabama, who claimed they deserved to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And Alabama did not have anybody sitting out. They had Jalen Milroe starting.
Alabama, I still don't. Alabama was not a playoff. Alabama was good, but they were not a playoff team last year. And this is like my biggest hang up on all this. I don't quite understand why SEC, most of the fans are dying on the hill to say that Alabama should have been the playoffs. Guys, I can't. Indiana would have beaten Alabama on the football field. Period. Sorry.
It's not only Alabama. Remember, South Carolina.
Indiana beat Michigan, by the way. Go ahead.
Right. South Carolina, they were supposed to be in the playoff too. How'd they do against Illinois?
Yeah.
Bert took care of them. So, I mean, the SEC versus the Big Ten bowl record last year shows you who the superior conference is in football. And they can say the way we play football is boring and, all this stuff. But wait, we win. I mean, who cares? An ugly win is still a win over a beautiful loss.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in the Big Ten this year. I mean, Michigan, they got this Underwood, and Buckeyes got Sayin, and Washington's got a new quarterback, and of course the Minnesota Golden Gophers. This is your propaganda moment of the night. Got the next Josh Allen, Drake Lindsay. Watch out, baby. Anyways, look, I think we entered a new era 2 years ago, right? With NIL, and we're entering a new one with the rev share. I think, we see a disbursement, more disbursement of the top players coming out of every high school class. I think we're getting, with the transfer portal, I think we're getting a little bit more of an equilibrium throughout college football. But the Big Ten, boring, I still hear that, and I don't get it. I watch every football. We did 50 watch party games last year here. I did them throughout all the conferences. The Big Ten games were just as exciting as anybody else. I do know one thing about the Big Ten. When it comes to defensive players going in the NFL draft, there's a lot more of them coming out of the Big Ten than the ACC and the Big 12. So maybe great defense is considered boring. I don't know. Maybe. I don't get it.
Hey, an ugly win's a win, Greg.
Yeah.
As far as the Big Ten being boring, the Ohio State-Oregon game, the first game of the year, when Ohio State played over in Oregon, that was one of probably the most exciting football game that year, this past season. And then you must say, well, it's not exciting. How about Penn State annihilating SMU in the playoff?
Yeah.
Or
and Minnesota lost to Penn State 26-25 last year. And
not only that, Minnesota game against Michigan with the kit.
Yeah, and Minnesota beat USC that defeated LSU. But again, I have ran up I have ran it up against on this national live show. I mean, it's almost like most Big 12 and ACC fan bases don't think that any other Big 10 school counts except for the big major ones. But if West Virginia, Coos Corner, down in Kansas, if you guys were playing Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan every year, you would be getting beat every year, almost every single time, just like the rest of the Big Ten. But therefore, somehow we can't play football. I mean, how many bowl games have the Gophers won in a row? I don't even know the number anymore. What is it, 8 games in a row? 7? I don't even know. Against ACC and Big 12 teams? They beat Auburn on a January 1st game. You look at the bowl record of Northwestern, Wisconsin, and Minnesota over the last 15 years. What is it? Like 25-6 or something outrageous? I'm not trying to rip on Big 12 and ACC, but I'm not seeing this. I love Big 12 football. I love ACC football. I'm not seeing this, Big 10 sucks. I don't see it. I know that's out there. It's out there every single day. I am not seeing it. When the Gophers line up against Big 12 and ACC schools in these bowl games, the Gophers look like they're 3 times bigger than their opponent. Again, Minnesota sucks. It's like we can't beat Michigan. We can't beat the Buckeyes. Once in a while we beat Penn State. But we suck because we can't beat the teams you guys can't beat. There's no logic to that, in my opinion, but I'm biased. Go ahead, Moen.
You can't beat Michigan. You can't beat Ohio State. Oh, by the way, the last 2 national champions.
Yeah.
You should be ashamed for not beating the last 2 national champions, guys.
Yeah.
But, it's since NIL and the portal came along, the Big Ten has improved dramatically in the middle tier. Illinois, again, I bring it up. Brett Bielema in Illinois, South Carolina, they cried and cried and cried in the SEC that South Carolina was denied a playoff spot, and they had to play lowly Illinois. And guess what? Lowly Illinois beat South Carolina. Beat an SEC team that they said was good enough to be in the playoffs.
And a 10-3 Illinois is another team that Minnesota beat last year.
Yeah.
But we suck. I don't. It's just
Kurt Signetti at Indiana. Indiana made the playoff. Look at the improvement that Indiana made. Nebraska with Matt Rule. If they can get something figured out there, if they can ever get anything figured out there, and he can turn that around, Nebraska's a program. Oregon, obviously, with all Phil Knight's money, but you also have Washington. Washington was just playing for a national championship 2 years ago.
Before we crown the Cornhuskers' ass, Moen, they've got to get over the mental hurdle of beating the Golden Gophers, right? You agree with that, right?
They got to get over. They got to get over something because
they've got to beat Minnesota this year. If they don't beat Minnesota has whooped Nebraska not whooped them, but they've beaten them 5 straight times. They've got to beat the Gophers, or I don't know. I mean, they've got to do it this year. They've got Dylan Raiola. We've got Drake Lindsay, which none of you have even heard of, although he is the next Josh Allen. But, well, Nebraska has to do it this year. If they don't do it this year, if they lose to Minnesota again, they're not going to get over the hump, and Matt Rule's in trouble. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah, bring back Bo Pelini. But, and if Luke Fickell could ever get his stuff figured out at Wisconsin, I mean, yeah, there's some bad teams in the Big Ten. Northwestern's probably never going to be great just because the academic standards at Northwestern. But, there's always teams that in Michigan State, they went to the 4-team playoff one year. There's always teams in the Big Ten. I just hate that people discount some of these teams in the Big Ten and just go, oh, all the Big Tens are awful below Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. No, there's some good teams there, and they usually win their bowl games. And I believe this season it was a 5-1 split on Big Ten versus SEC games in the postseason, and that one loss was like a field goal loss to Missouri. So it's not like the SEC, as much as they claim superiority, it's not showing on the field when they're playing against the Big Ten. And the Big Ten plays 9 conference games.
Yeah. Well, yes. And that's another thing. And that's, again, the difference between 8 and 9 conference games is so big. And Big 12, I hope that God Brett Yormark is telling Sankey, none of this is going to fly unless you go to 9 conference games. If you don't go to 9, we're staying at 12 playoff teams. I hope that God Yormark is saying that. Because I know Petiti, I don't know. Go ahead.
We'll see, but I will say this about Tony Petiti. Supreme excellence consists in breaking an enemy's resistance without fighting, Greg. I know you think Tony should be out there loud and proud. Much better to just sit back, let it happen, and make your move. You didn't see Don Corleone out there screaming and shouting. He was in the office getting Luca Brasi to go cut the head off a horse. So I think Tony, he is silent, but I think the man is deadly.
I think the man, I'm not going to say what I think. I think I've said enough. Moen, you guys going live tonight, or what's going on?
Moen ain't going live tonight. I'll leave that for somebody else if they want to go live, but thanks for taking my call, Greg.
You got it, buddy. I appreciate it. Mr. Buckeye. Mr. Buckeye, we are usually at war with each other. We got that October 4th game at the Shoe. Buckeyes will probably be at 3-touchdown favorites, 24 points, something like that. The Gophers are going to go down there. They're going to be 4-0 at the time. Corey Pirich is going to go over the top. He is going to double up. He is going to double up on Mr. Jeremiah Smith. And we're going to shut the Heisman candidate down for the first 3 minutes of the game. Then we'll get shredded.
Call from
Ryan Brooks.
Ryan Brooks, the LSU Tiger, is in the house. Thanks for calling. I appreciate it. You haven't called in a while.
I've been busy with the little Tiger for a little bit.
You got it. What's on your mind? What are you going to yell at me about today?
So nothing, although I do have 2 separate trains of thoughts here.
You got it.
The first one is everyone talks about the SEC's 8 conference games, and they always point out the Citadel or Mercer or UT Chattanooga.
Yeah.
But I really think the difference is not the FCS game, because the Big Ten plays FCS teams.
Yep.
The Big Ten plays a power team, just like the SEC.
Yep.
And then they play a G5. The difference is the SEC plays one more G6 school. But everyone wants to point to Mercer, and I don't think that's fair, because they don't criticize the Big Ten for playing FCS.
Let me just throw this in there, and then you'll take over again. And I think people have a problem with that non-conference G6 game, whatever, is late in the season, because because of the timing of where that game is. It is a big boost to the SEC schools. When you're playing somebody like whatever, I won't even bring a G6 school, before you play your arch rival, let's say in the ACC or some other conference, it's a great advantage to the SEC schools. But go ahead, sir.
No, so that's a great point, and I understand the Big Ten can't go down to 8 games, because that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But the Big Ten certainly can control their schedule. There's no reason they couldn't play, their week 2 or week 3 conference game at week 11 and do the same thing. They definitely have that opportunity. That's within their control, most definitely.
True. Yep.
So I just kind of point that out, but I think I'd have a solution that would really help if they would go 8 across the board, 8 conference games for all 4 P4 schools. The ACC plays the Big 12 every year. The Big SEC and Big 10 play every year, and then they rotate. SEC against Big 12 one year, ACC against the SEC one year. So that way that there's that 9th and 10th P4 game. And I'm not sure the TV would hate it that much if you were sacrificing playing Northwestern, and instead you would get a top-tier Kansas State or Texas Tech or somebody like that. That might offset it. But again, I think the ship has sailed on the 9th conference game, and we just got to do it eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Go ahead, sir.
Second topic, and you can credit your show definitely being national, because this is your Big Ten guy, and we've actually talked about Louisiana Monroe and Louisiana Tech on the show tonight, and I never thought I'd see that again.
That's right. Oh, we cover everything. We cover everything. I don't know who Louisiana Tech quarterback is going to be this year. Last year was Hank Bachmeier, right?
Right.
I don't know who I haven't breaking down the Conference USA yet.
Well, so here's something that's interesting, and I don't know if you are tracking it, but there is an absolute hatred of Louisiana Tech within the Sun Belt. Louisiana Tech was in the Sun Belt, left, looked down on them. I talked a lot of smack, and the fans do not want them to come back. But I think the hatred, that brings that rivalry angle that they were looking at. There's a hatred with Louisiana. Oh, that's 20 miles down the road. Louisiana, Southern Miss, and Louisiana Tech's a good brand.
Yes, and I've had people tell me that, and I think it's probably going to happen, right? Because of that. So, and Louisiana Tech wants back in, supposedly.
Well, of course they do. They went to the Conference USA, which was a better conference until AAC rated it, and now Conference USA is at the bottom. Yeah. And quite frankly, a few more realignments. That's the most likely conference to die.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely the most likeliest to die in FBS, but I don't think they're going to die. I think they're always going to be able to backfill. It's getting difficult. It's getting difficult.
Now they're having I think the rumor is for the Louisiana Tech backfill for the Conference USA would be Tarleton State.
Yep.
And that's kind of interesting.
Yes.
Also, are you tracking that Sacramento State? It looks like they're in trouble not getting their independence waiver.
Yeah, let me post that up on the screen right now. Ross Dellinger, NCAA Football Oversight Committee, is providing to the D1 Council a recommendation not to support the waiver request from Sacramento State seeking to transition to FBS Sources tell Yahoo Sports the authority to grant the waiver still remains at the D1 Council discretion. Sacramento State, if the waiver is granted, intends to move in to an FBS as an independent. Transitioning schools are normally required to hold an invitation from an FBS conference, a reason a waiver is necessary. Yeah, it sounds like right now, Sacramento State's transition to FBS might not happen as soon as they thought.
Or they could be the dark horse to come in with Texas State.
Yeah, because that would help because they would have an invitation to a conference. Is that the smoke that is going off over there, or I had no one's told me that. No one has told me that's a possibility.
No, it hasn't. It's just that they're desperate. It definitely would definitely be better to have 9 conference members than 8. So it would be interesting to bump them up to 9 to kind of even out their schedule.
Yep.
But that's all I have. But I just wanted to point out that we talked Louisiana Monroe and Louisiana Tech. So
yes,
makes me happy.
Yep, you got it. Beautiful call, sir.
All right, thank you.
You got it. Beautiful call. University of Louisiana Monroe lost a great running back, Ahmed Hardy, in the portal last year, and he's going to be in the backfield of the Missouri Tigers. Hardy and Pribula, the quarterback of Penn State. I don't know. I think Missouri, I said this before, Missouri and Oklahoma's offense, they're going to be fun to watch at the beginning of the season. Both of those offenses, both of those QB1, RB1 combination, John Mateer and Jaden Ott for Oklahoma, and then Missouri, Pribula, and Hardy, going to be very, very, very interesting indeed. Opie, thank you so much for your unbelievable super chat. All your generosity you've given us here at Peek Around the Corner. Thank you so much. Okay, Big Ten folks, help me out here. Hold on a second. Hold on, I got something wrong here. Hold on. Okay, Big Ten folks, help me out here. You claim Michigan cheated. Yes, they did. And should not be crowned national championship. No, I did not say that. I said they should be crowned national champion, but they did cheat. And it should be stripped from them. I don't believe that. We know it won. So in your eyes, you have one in a row. So what is just wondering 1 or 2? Now I can't speak for the Buckeye Moen because Moen and Michigan, they don't get along. I have been very clear. Michigan did cheat. And no, not everybody cheats in that manner. Not everybody does it. Not in personal scouting. And the evidence was great. And at the end of the day, Michigan did not really battle the evidence, did they? Tony Petitti handed down a punishment. I don't know what the punishment's going to be from the NCAA. Maybe they get stripped. I don't think they should. I believe they were the best team in the country. Not by a lot, by a little. At the end of the season, but they did cheat. They did cheat. They should get a penalty. And when that hammer comes down, we'll discuss it if it was too much or too little. But I've been clear. They did cheat, but they should not have the Big Ten championship stripped or the national championship stripped. I know I'm in the minority of the PATC family on that. But I've been consistent. Thank you so much for the super chat, Opie. Thank you so very much. Almighty Finn, are we going to act like the Big Ten doesn't feast off the MAC and the FCS schools? Greg acting like the Indiana schedule was difficult. No, Indiana's schedule was not difficult. However, it wasn't set up to be as easy as it was. Who knew that Michigan was going to be down? Who knew Washington was going to be down? These schedules, you're not going to be able to know. You're not going to be able to design a schedule that, these large conferences, even in the Big 12, ACC, you're going to have a schedule that you think is going to be difficult, but it's going to be easier than you thought, or vice versa. Washington and Michigan, Indiana played them, and they weren't quite the Washington, Indiana school that they were the year before. Indiana's schedule wasn't difficult, but they beat who they played. And for 95% of those games that they won, they were in total control. They won impressively. Indiana would not have lost to a Vanderbilt, in my opinion. They would not have lost to Oklahoma 24-3 at the end of the season. And yes, the Big Ten does feast off the MAC. In fact, they lose to the MAC sometimes. Just, the SEC loses their game. Everybody loses their games that they shouldn't lose. I got no, but it is mathematically conclusive that playing 8 conference games is a big advantage to playing 9. You got half the losses in your conference. You don't have, it's just statistically easier. No problem, Opie. No problem. Bob Swanger, the ACC should have only had one team in there last year. I agree with the committee. I think 2 of them should have been in. Now, Duke should have beaten SMU in that football game. Duke had six different times they should have won that game. And if they would have won that game, SMU would not have made it to the playoffs. BYU should have not lost at home to Kansas. South Carolina got robbed against LSU. If they would have not lost that game, if they would not have first of all, let me say, South Carolina got screwed by the ref, but South Carolina also gave up a big lead to LSU. So you've got to tip your cap to LSU at some point because they did come back. I think they were, I don't remember. My mind is gone. 17 points down. You got to tip your cap to LSU. But that Go Black 45, man. That hit to Nussmeier, that was not a blind side. That was not illegal. That was a clean push to the chest, pick 6. It should have counted. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. That is true. Ryan Brooks, it's important to note that the bottom half of the SEC wants to stay at 8 to be able to get to a bowl game. Wet blankets, South Carolina got robbed. No doubt. No doubt. Down 16 going in the 4th. Thanks. So I'm gonna give LSU a lot of credit. South Carolina, you should have shut the door. We are gonna do South Carolina. We're doing tomorrow. We're gonna be doing a spotlight on Duke, The next day, Michigan State, and then the next day, South Carolina. Those are the first 3 spotlight teams. So we're going to be talking some South Carolina Gamecocks. Can they get into the playoffs this year? I think they're going to be knocking on the door. I think they got a better opportunity than Ole Miss. I got LSU as the 6th seed in the playoffs. I got LSU ahead of South Carolina, but I got South Carolina ahead of Ole Miss and a lot of other teams in the SEC. Anyway, we're going to talk about all that. College football, you can tell it's right around the corner. There was some elbows being thrown today. Some football elbows being thrown today. And I love it. I absolutely love it. This is the home for the College Football Sickles, a national college football YouTube channel. And I want to thank everybody who's joined us today. I want to thank Opie for being so generous to this channel. Thank you so much, Opie. Appreciate it so very much. Expedition Greg, thank you for all your gifted memberships throughout the days and months. Bill G, always doing the 5 memberships. Holy smokes. Congrats to Gage Wood once again. A no-hitter, Arkansas in the College World Series. Rock and Rant, thank you so much. A brilliant phone call from Rock and Rant. Ryan Thomas, thank you so very much. Appreciate it, BYU Cougar. Ricky Tungate, Mr. Hoosier, unbelievable generosity. You've been with me for so long. I thank you so much. Bill G, again, thank you. Ryan Thomas, thank you guys for all your support, helping us keep the lights on. I want to thank the callers were exceptional once again. Movie Time Blues, everybody else. Rock and Rant, everybody. Thank you guys so very much. Yes. It's interesting. We're going to talk about it. Let's see, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday live show, spotlight on South Carolina. Last year, I remember I was scared about their offensive line, and they did not have a great offensive line. But Lenore Sellers was able to make plays. Hopefully they're better on the O-line this year. Opie, welcome to the new LSU Tiger Network. Yeah, baby. Holy smokes. LSU Tiger Network. I'm high on LSU. And I know you guys are not afraid of that this year. I've got them number 6. I've got the LSU Tigers playing at home, Death Valley, playing at home against the Oregon Ducks. And I know the LSU Tiger fans are happy with that because they also know that 2025 is the year of Greg the Gold. Greg the Gold. LSU Tigers. They're going to lose their first game, but they're going to make the playoffs. Brian Kelly is going to make the playoffs. Let's go. Do not fear. Do not fear Tigers. Okay, enough of that. Enough of that. I cannot lose this year. It's mathematically impossible. I was so incompetent in 24, 23, and 22. 2025 has got to be the year of Greg the Gold. LSU Tigers will be in the college football playoffs next year. Buckle up, brace for impact. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Smash the like button if you liked our content today. Get ready for tomorrow. Things are percolating. Until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.